My guest today is a multi-talented musician and composer. She's created music for many films and TV shows, and really just an all-around amazing artist, Lisbeth Scott. Lisbeth, like I was saying to you earlier, such an honor to be talking with you today. And I saw that you performed on March 15th with some friends of yours, and the performance featured some songs from this upcoming musical called Born of the Sun. This is a really cool project that you're working on. Just what's the process been like developing this?
It's been a long process. I've been working on it for over 10 years, and it's a very personal story that I think is very relatable and also very timely. It's a story about how one moves from trauma to joy, and it follows a young woman, a young musician's life, and her Armenian immigrant grandparents. And by the end of the story, we realize the journey they've gone through, and it's just very moving, very joyful, very hopeful. And the music has been so much fun to create. And we're doing our first workshop in New York in June. And then it's always many steps when you're writing a musical. So hopefully after that, we'll move on to a regional production and then an off-Broadway production and then fingers crossed a Broadway production. So I'm in it for the long haul. And it's just been an absolute joy to create. And there's a huge talented team with us. And it's really, really exciting.
And then also in February, you released your latest album called Heliotrope. What were
Yes.
some of the inspirations for you on this album?
That's a good question. It's a really it's kind of a folk ambient album, and the subject matter is um, all about love, which is sort of what I always go to as a focus for my writing and inspiration. But it's about how we love each other, how we lose each other, how we love ourselves. And each song is just a very sweet little snapshot of a particular emotion or situation. I played a lot of guitar on it. There's a lot of vocals, a lot of ambient piano work, some really cool strings. I worked with Isaiah Gage, um, who's a wonderful cellist here in town. Yeah, so it's a beautiful project and it's starting to get out there, which is nice. And yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Speaking of albums, I really love your first album called Sirens. Gosh,
Oh, thanks.
wonderful album, wonderful.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, and I guess what I want to ask is just how do you think your music has evolved from that first album, way back when up to the present?
I think my music has evolved because I've gotten more in touch with what my true voice is. And I think that's the hope for any artist because oftentimes when you start out, you're doing what you think you should do or what other people do or what you're imitating somebody else doing because you're sort of finding your way. You're experimenting with your voice and with writing and with production. And at this point in my artistic life, I'm very sure about what I want to say and how I want to say it. And that's, I think, the major difference. The major difference. Plus, I'm also doing a lot of my own production. I'm doing my own production and just creating a sound that really speaks to me um, in a way that I want to do it. So, and that feels fantastic. Really does. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. What do you remember from the making of that first album?
Um, I remember some really wonderful moments. I learned a lot on that album. I learned what my voice was capable of because I was still kind of finding my voice then, actual physical singing voice. I learned what microphones I liked and didn't like. I learned um, sort of a clearer way of expressing myself lyrically. I learned that a lot by some of the people I was working with at that time. Um, and I remember a lot of late night sessions and some frustration because I couldn't do exactly what I was hearing in my head and I didn't know how to make it happen. And there were some good people involved in that album that really uh, helped me understand how to move forward technically. And then, there were some very just beautiful, sweet moments that I remember recording I Fall. It was so special. And then I did a version of that song at Abbey Road, uh, in the middle of the giant studio. That was amazing. And the song Save You was a very special song. I remember writing it sitting in I had a upstairs little studio where I was living at that time and just sitting down and writing that song all in one fell swoop. There were a lot of beautiful moments in that album. Yeah. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. It's wonderful, wonderful album. Let's
Mhm.
get into a bit of your background now. Your music career began when your mom won a piano on a radio giveaway, of all things, right? How crazy is that? Um, she was the lucky third caller, right? Right. I guess lucky number three. I
Yeah.
and as soon as that piano entered your home, I mean that was your spot. That was your place. What were your early experiences like playing the piano?
I loved it the minute I sat down, and I had this really so funny and so sweet piano teacher who was about 4 feet tall. Her name was Gabrielle Rondo. She's long since left the planet, but she was great because I think I remember our first lesson, she said, "Oh, you're very talented and you have a natural gift." And I was, I don't know, 6. And I thought she was crazy, and I was just learning how to play like the butterfly or something. But she had some wonderful techniques. I used um, a piano learning technique called sartorio. And then, of course, the Hannon exercises. I never used the Thompson exercises. She didn't like them for some reason, but I learned a lot from her. And she would come over and with the metronome and uh, I would just watch the arm going back and forth and try and keep up with it while I was playing. But, honestly, my favorite moments of that time in my life were when I would just sit down and play what I wanted. And I always loved to improvise, even from 6. I would just play whatever I heard and let my fingers go where they wanted on the keyboard. And I was always very specific about what chords or intervals I liked or didn't like. Um, and then it just grew from there. My repertoire increased and I was going towards a concert career at one point, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do this. So here I am. I'm so happy that that piano came into my life. That was divine intervention, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Now, a
yeah,
huge moment for you came when an intern for Hans Zimmer heard you singing and then
right.
asked you if you wanted to sing on a score for him. This is, I mean, huge moment in your career. Just, what were you feeling in that moment?
Honestly, I didn't know. I didn't know because I didn't really understand how that would work. Um, and I hate admitting this because I was so into art and dance. I didn't really know who Hans was. I didn't know his work. I mean, and he would probably scream to hear me say that. But I mean, of course, I quickly found out and absolutely loved working for him. And Jeff Rona was the person who ushered me into working with him and into my career, really. And I've always had a pretty good attitude, I guess, about all of these new skills we can learn in life. You just have to say, okay, I'll try that. And as soon as I got into the studio, I fell in love. I mean, I put on the headphones and I could hear my voice in the, and basically in my whole universe. And I thought, oh, wow. Yeah, I love this. And yeah, from there, it just blew up.
I mean, you've been able to work on so many different film and television projects over the years. It's just really amazing how one moment can lead to so many other things.
It is. And again, it felt like divine intervention because there I was playing at Idlewild in a dance studio outside, and Jeff Rona was next door, you know. And so many times you set your sight on something as a child that you think you want to do. And I'd always wanted to be a musician. Um, but I just never, oftentimes you don't know the road that's going to take you to where your dreams lie. You just have to be open and give up trying to structure it and make it happen yourself. You just have to keep your eye on the ball. So, yeah, I'm so thankful every day, truly, that I can do what I do every day. I feel very lucky.
Now, of course, you're also very well known from your work with Globus, making this amazing, epic cinematic music, right? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. How did that all come about?
That came about after I had worked with Harry Gregson Williams on a film called Spy Game. I think that's how that happened. Forgive me if I'm jumbling the details, but I did also an album with an artist named Paul Schwartz, and the two of us were on RCA. And on that album, I really discovered the strength of my voice because previously I had done a lot of very airy, wispy, angelic kind of vocals. And um, I think I remember that I was with Paul and I was going through a lot in my life, a lot of changes, a lot of questions and frustrations. And so he asked me to sing this version of Amazing Grace, which I had never sung before, but I knew, everyone knows the song. And he just pressed record and he had a track, and I just was so into it. And suddenly my voice just opened up, and I was doing all this stuff I'd never done before. And it was so, I don't know, it was so fulfilling to sing that way. And I looked out and Paul was like holding his head, like, "Who are you?" He screamed through the talk back. And at that point, after that point, I worked with Harry on Spy Game using that same tone in my voice, and had done a little bit of work with Hans, same tone. And then Yoav called and said, would you be interested in working on this project with me? And we got together and I really loved what he was doing. And yeah, that's how it happened. I just really connected with the way that he writes and his vision, musically. And we got into the studio and had a lot of fun recording. And here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. You got to perform with Globus at Wembley Hall in London
Mm.
back in 2006, and
Uh,
the performance of Preliator from that show. It has over
mm,
2 million views on YouTube, which is pretty awesome. And and I remember watching that for the first time, many years ago. I
mm.
was just amazed. Like, oh my gosh, the power in your vocals is incredible. I mean, it's truly remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you. I just, what can I say? I'm passionate. Yeah, I love it so much. I really do. And I'm thankful again that I can do it.
Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes
absolutely.
you have to let go and let yourself be larger than you imagine you can be. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And what's really great is like because it's really cool that because Predator, it's that song, it's crossed over into the world of sports. I'm a huge sports fan, and and sports teams, use that song as it's like a big hype up song. Before,
Really? I don't
yes,
think I knew
yes,
that.
really, you didn't know that?
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's actually an
That's
example.
cool.
My favorite hockey team, the Dallas Stars, they use they use that song before some of their games, like a big, again, hype up song, and your vocals are like in the arena, like it's a great production and everything.
Kidding me? That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it's super cool, and I mean, it's a perfect song for that, right? To get the fans hyped up.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
perfect.
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I mean, it's super cool, and and it's kind of we've been talking here. I also think it's cool that music can be used for different things, and it can mean different things to a wide variety of people. And I think you've done a great job of that over your career with the wide variety of music that you've made. Um,
yes.
what does that mean to you to make music that is able to resonate with people in so many different ways?
I will tell you, ever since I started singing, I didn't really realize it when I was only playing piano and guitar, but when I started singing, people started to come up to me and say, "Oh my God, what your voice, I just feel so much." And I feel like it's some kind of healing or something. And I started to understand that maybe that was my gift and that, um, quickly I decided that's how I wanted to use it. So anytime I would sing, I would just make a little intention that my voice would move people in a positive way and however they needed it, whether it was for healing or for um, encouragement or joy or to get excited before a game now that I know about the hockey team. It was hockey, right?
Yes, yeah.
Um, and that's always been my intention. So then I have created a bunch of albums that are specifically for healing and for yoga and for meditation because that has always been a large part of my life too. But really anything I create and any style in which I sing, I always have the intention that it will reach people where they need to be reached, open their hearts and move them. And I think when that happens musically, you can't help but have some kind of healing take place. And that's a very general term, but healing as in maybe you needed a cry or maybe you needed just a deep breath and to be able to laugh at something or whatever it is that you need. I really always hope and intend that my music, my voice, my songs can bring that to whoever is listening. That's always been my intention. Um, so I think, I also never wanted to limit myself. Like I'm just a singer-songwriter, or I'm only singing in film or TV, or I don't believe in limitations at all. I think that we're all capable of so many things. And unless we try and we move forward, how are we ever going to know, you know? And I remember people telling me, well, if you do this kind of music, people are going to be confused. And I was like, let them be confused and let them be curious because curiosity always brings us to new places in life. And that's what it's done for me. And yeah, I feel like why limit yourself? Again, I know I said that before, but it is sort of my philosophy, and I think it's a good one. It's really gotten me to many wonderful places in my life. So
I also want to quickly mention that you're sharing chapter by chapter a book you wrote titled "A Girl
yeah.
Cold Bird." What's what's this book about, and just what inspired you to write it?
What inspired me to write it is that my album Bird, which was released about 6 years ago on Hearts of Space Records, is being re-released late spring in 2025. And um, I have been working on this book on and off for about 5 years. And I suddenly realized that, of course, you write what you know. So it's about a singer-songwriter, um, and who's been through quite a lot. And she meets somebody and who's also been through quite a lot. And together they go through this maze of learning how to love each other and themselves. And I've always been fascinated with how people love each other. I mean, in families and relationships, as friends, as um, even acquaintances at work, there's always got to be some kind of place that we can meet. Do you know what I mean? Like we have to be able to communicate, to understand each other, and to accept each other and accept ourselves. And so, what I've done with this book is I've modeled it and created the story around all the songs in my album Bird. So, when the album comes out in like late spring, the book will be concluded, and then we'll publish a version of the book with the release of the album. Um, and I've never done this before, but I was a really huge writer in high school and college and did win some awards, and then I just left it because I loved music so much. So I thought, hey, hang on. Why don't I write this story around this music so that the actual music goes with the book? And so that's what I'm doing. And yeah, today was the first day that I'm glad you saw that. Today was the first day that I posted the prologue to the book. And every few days, I'm going to post the next chapter of the book. And it will be explained in the chapters how it relates to which song in the album.
There's a lot going on in the world these days, and I
Amen.
definitely think the world can definitely use a lot more love.
Definitely. That's my philosophy as well. And I feel like anything that teaches us how to accept each other and love each other, regardless of our differences, is worth doing right now. And that is largely also why I'm doing it right now. Because I agree with you. I think the world needs it.
Seriously, thank you so much. Getting to, speak with you today, such an honor. No, what I enjoy is that you're a very genuine and authentic person, and that's awesome. So,
Thank you. Seems that you are too, Sam. So I really appreciate that.